This is the Tax Lien Lady, and today I have David Schumacher with us of Tax Title Services. He is the president and founder of Tax Title Services. Now, you might not know what that is all about, but if you're a tax lien investor and you've purchased some tax liens and you've foreclosed on tax liens, then you know that you need to clear the title on those liens, on those tax foreclosures, or if you're a tax deed buyer and you've purchased tax deeds. So right now I'm going to let Dave take it away. And if you have questions while he's going through this, just type them in the question box and we will get to them. Okay, Dave,
Oh, thanks, Joanne.
glad to have you on the call tonight.
I appreciate it. Always a pleasure to talk to you and your students. Again, Dave Schumacher here, Tax Title Services. Give you a little background of myself, where I came from. I am a former assistant vice president of First American Title. Basically started at First American right out of college, and basically answered an ad for a management trainee position, which at First American means you start in the mailroom and you work your way up. Long story short, I was the first title officer for First American Title to specialize in mortgage foreclosing titles, eventually becoming an assistant vice president of theirs, developing what was back then called Lender's Advantage, which was and is now called National Default Services, which is basically a one-stop shop for lenders nationwide to have all their foreclosing title work handled by one office. And that was a revolutionary thing. Nobody had ever done that before. While I was developing that, this is back in the mid-90s, I was getting calls from people like yourself, some institutional clients, Wall Street securitized money, spending hundreds of millions of dollars on tax liens every year, having to foreclose on the property and get their tax deed, and then trying to go sell their property, and then finding out that, hey, the title companies do not like to insure tax deeds. And this is pretty much a nationwide thing. It's not just First American, but it's Old Republic, it's Attorney's Title, it's Fidelity, it's Chicago. It's pretty much nationwide that you inherit a title problem. And that is what I was tasked to do for First American. And that was, Dave, why can't First American come up with a faster and cheaper alternative other than making us quiet the title in court? And so what's the big issue with title on a tax title? The big issue is that if you look at all the case law nationwide, which is what I had to do back then, the 99% of cases overturning a tax sale is based on the fact that people don't get notified of their right to pay the taxes. Under your due process rights of the Constitution, whether it's a mortgage foreclosure or a tax foreclosure, you as the owner of the property and or as a lien holder have to be notified and have the right to respond and or stop whatever's going on for them to seize your property. So what happens is notice is sent out, comes back undelivered. If the notice wasn't done, they try to get notice back to you, then you can technically hire an attorney and try to attack the title, overturn the foreclosure, thus making why the title companies feel uncomfortable to insure. You can imagine they've insured this property and all of a sudden, it can happen on a regular basis that a claim can be filed and then they would have to pay on that claim. Now, to go back for a little bit, for those of you who are new to title insurance, and let's clarify, give you a little basics. What is title insurance? And title insurance is basically in order to sell your property to a buyer and a buyer to get a loan to buy your property, whether it's any kind of transaction, you need to be able to provide either the buyer or a lender title insurance. Title insurance being there's insurance companies out there that issue a title insurance policy, insuring you as the owner of the property or the lender as the first lender on the property, and it will protect you if somebody tries to attack your title, which in this instance on a tax deed title, if you've got title insurance and you go to sell your property and all of a sudden the former owner who lost the property to your tax sale that you purchased it at comes forward and tries to attack your title, if you have title insurance in place, the title insurance company will defend you, defend your title, and or if for some reason you lose your title, they then have to make you whole. They have to write you a check, basically for whatever your policy amount was when you purchased the property. So you can see why, especially in tax deeds, why, because people, the formers, they get really kind of upset sometimes. And those of you who've bought tax deeds, by the way, I'm an investor. In order to create these title products, when I was in mortgage foreclosing title, to talk shop with you, my clients, and to create good title products that were specific to this need, I went out and bought mortgage foreclosed titles in the 90s. I've been buying tax deeds. I have a self-directed IRA that allows me to invest in tax deeds going back to 1995. So I've been at this quite a while. So I'm one of you. So for tax deeds, you want to have title insurance protecting you when you go to sell, because you can get challenged. And by the way, if you want to try, and when you go to sell, if you don't have title insurance or have clean title ready to go, then you're going to be stuck with just people who can pay all cash for your properties, because they won't be able to get a loan. Okay, so by having title insurance and your title ready to go, when you go to sell or rehab or refinance or construct your property, the title insurance is going to allow you to open your marketplace up. Also, as an investor myself, if I was buying your property and I knew you acquired it through a tax sale, I'm going to ask you, do you have good title? I mean, is your title ready to go? Do you have title insurance in place or ready to be issued? And if you tell me no, I, as an investor, am going to know that I've inherited your title problem, and I'm going to have to fix that. So as your buyer, I'm going to start now negotiating discounts because you're passing on a problem to me. Now, if you have the title ready and in place and ready to go, well, now all of a sudden you and I are talking market value discussions. We're not talking discounts. So that's another big benefit of why you want title insurance. Okay, so back in the 90s, I was tasked, okay, Dave, why won't you guys insure? And again, we don't trust that the tax collector does the tax foreclosure noticing adequate enough. Notice gets sent out, it comes back undelivered. That's a potential problem, and thus we see it as risky. So I took the notion, normally the title companies will tell you, hey, you got your tax deed. In order for us to feel comfortable, we want you to go hire an attorney, and we want you to sue the former owners. We want you to sue the mortgage holders in order to get the court to quiet the title or clear title in your name. Quieting meaning clear. Now, you can imagine being an investor and you've got this tax deed of yours, and you've basically acquired this maybe for pennies on the dollar, and you've got maybe a good profit coming to you. Now all of a sudden you got to go through another judicial action, which can take you 6 months to 9 months to a year, plus cost you $3,000 to $8,000 depending on your marketplace for your attorney to do all this. So, and meanwhile, sometimes, as I know personally, and as some of you know out there who actually have experience in tax liens, you know that sometimes these properties are abandoned and they're in bad shape, and the city has slapped liens against them. There's code enforcement. So again, here you are sitting, your attorney's suing everybody, 6 to 9 months, you're pouring out money left and right, so Dave, why can't you guys come up with a faster and cheaper alternative? So I said, look, instead of suing everybody, what if we at the title company took the notion that if we did the noticing on behalf of the tax collector or the attorney or you, the investor, depending on your state, certain states you have to do your own noticing, like Georgia or Montana or Louisiana. Pennsylvania is more of a judicial foreclosure state. But if you had to do the noticing, if I had to do it for you, could I have found these people somewhere else other than where notice was sent and not delivered? So I skip trace, use the internet, phone records, all these different things to find people. And if I can find them, the tax collector should have found them. There's an important case called Jones versus Flowers, which is in 2006, Judge Roberts, Supreme Court said, Mr. Tax Collector, which is every tax collector in America, 3,000 of you, and your city tax collectors, if you send out notice and it comes back undelivered, you have to do more. And if you don't, we will overturn the sale. So I take the notion that if I can find you, let's say Joanne has a tax deed or has a property, I've purchased her tax deed, or my client has purchased the tax deed. They come to me and say, Dave, we want clear title. I check the noticing. I see that notice of the tax sale was sent to Joanne, but it came back undelivered. So I do my research, due diligence, me and my staff. We'll go through this due diligence to try and find Joanne. And if I find Joanne, she was here where notice was sent, but she was over here. and the tax collector should have found her over there, and they should have sent notice to her over there. So if I see that, well, Joanne's a potential claim. She's a potential contestant, an adversarial party. If you sued her in court, she may contest your quiet title. Or if you don't sue her in court and she finds out about it because she's a savvy investor and she knows her rights and she's going to attack it and she's got attorney friends, and next thing you know, the title company stepped into a title claim, or if there's no title insurance in place, you now have to defend your title, and you will probably lose if based on the fact that Joanne can argue, hey, I should have been notified and I wasn't, and you should have found me over here. So if I can find Joanne, well, that means there's a potential. I call it slapping the beehive. I'm slapping the hive, and I want to see if Joanne is upset about this, if anybody else who has a loan on the property is upset when they weren't notified. And so instead of suing Joanne, I will knock on Joanne's door or send her a letter or basically make a phone call to her and say, hey, Joanne, this is Dave Schumacher. I'm with Tax Title Services. I see that your property taxes went delinquent. You didn't pay them. My client purchased your property at a tax sale. I see that notice was sent to you and not delivered. I was able to find you, and I want to make sure you know about this. What do you think? And then Joanne's going to be really upset, or she's going to be fine, and that allows us to basically what I call cure or carve out or mediate. About 20% of these will end up in a buyback rate workout situation with Joanne or whoever I'm tracking down, because I know that she could argue she wasn't notified. So then you go into a buyback rate workout. Well, Joanne, do you want the property back? Well, no, my parents passed, and I inherited this property with me and my siblings. You know, we don't really want it. We did know the taxes were delinquent, but we just let it go. Now, that's very common, people out there. Why do property taxes go delinquent? A lot of it's because of death. Somebody's passed away, the heirs have not kept the property up or kept the taxes paid, and so a lot of times we'll end up tracking heirs down, and basically just, again, giving them a chance to respond so that we as the title company or title service company can make an underwriting decision to feel comfortable to allow the title insurance to be issued or not, and or mediate a buyback, a workout with Joanne. Say, Joanne, do you want the property or not? No, Dave, I don't want it. Well, Joanne, look, and I can pay my attorney to sue you in court and clear the title, but I'd rather give you the money than my attorney. How about that? How about I give you whatever amount that I would pay my attorney and you give me a quick claim deed instead? That's a buyback or a workout. Or Joanne goes, no, Dave, I'm going to sue unless you or your client cooperate. Well, great. Well, nobody wins in court except attorneys. So, hey, so I would go back to you, my client, and say, look, I've tracked down the former owner of the property. They weren't notified properly. You'll probably lose in court. Although I'm not an attorney, I'm not giving you legal advice, but based on my opinion as a title person and trying to get you qualified for title insurance, I recommend trying to mediate a buyback or workout. So give me what you paid at the tax sale, almost like a redemption. If it's a tax lien certificate, you might, it's almost like, let's say you're due 12% on top of your money plus costs, plus a premium for cooperating, depending on your leverage. Or if you have really good leverage in a state, say like Florida, where tax deeds hold up really well, we can start playing more hardball and maybe start negotiating from more of a market value. But again, with tax deeds, people, you got to be flexible. There's no black and white. Don't be greedy, because if you are, you're going to end up in front of attorneys and courts, and you lose all your money. Trust me. So that's about 20% of these. We're going to flesh out the adversarial parties, frivolous or not, and then put either then you in a buyback, a workout situation, which again, isn't that the same thing than if you sue Joanne in a quiet title action with an attorney? Only 9 months to a year later, you end up in a settlement with her. Wouldn't you rather have a 30 to 60-day process that gets you the same result? In those instances, we don't really make a lot of money, but we create so much added value for you when we put you in those carve-out situations, which protects the title company, which protects you, and then you get your money back plus profit, and then you can go buy another property. So and then about 80% of these, we're going to go through this underwriting process, and we're going to feel comfortable with it, and then we're going to issue a certification to First American Title or whoever our underwriter is. We're not the title insurance agent, by the way. The certification service is not an insurance product. It's just a qualification process that First American and other underwriters recognize in lieu of a quiet title. The certificate just tells them that we've done this approved underwriting and that our client has has paid us in lieu of an attorney. We are faster and cheaper, and thus we fill the void of you being able to get your property insured. That's basically what we do in a nutshell. Again, 30 to 60 days cost-wise, you're looking at $1,600 to $2,300 on an average for our service, depending on the value of the property, up to about $150,000 in value. Please visit our website at taxtitleservices.com. There's frequently asked questions and answers, and there is a pricing schedule and whatnot. How to place an order, very simply, once you get your tax deed, you would submit the order form with your tax deed to us. We require $750 up front as a non-refundable deposit. The balance would be due at the end of the process, about 60 days. Once we get the $750, the order form, and the tax deed, then we're off and running. And we're going to go through that review process. Once we're ready to issue the certification, we're going to send you an invoice for the balance, which will include a title policy option, which we encourage you because that's what you want. This is what this is for. Again, our service isn't an insurance product. It's a qualification product. You want a title insurance policy protecting you while you market and sell your property so you know that you're covered. As well as if you have a title policy that you can show your buyer, you're going to minimize buyer problems when you try to go sell, and somebody like myself is going to ask you, do you have your title ready to go? Because I know there's a title problem with a tax deed. So it'll help you when you go to resell. Okay? Now, some of you, case studies are always really good. And Joanne, if time is still okay, I'm going to go through a couple examples so that people can learn. Okay?
Yeah, sure. Please do.
Yeah, this is always my favorite part. These are all my business partners' deals, by the way. These are personal deals. These are not just necessarily my clients' deals. They are my clients, but some of these are my business partners as well, just so that you know that we're one of you. We've been doing this stuff for 20 years as well, investing. So that's how we can negotiate on your behalf and do workouts and all that, because I'm speaking your language, and that creates a lot of added value to what we do, as well as to Joanne and you guys, her clients. Okay, so here we go. This is Florida. This is a property in Coconut Creek. Client purchased this property for $71,000, and within a week had a full price offer of $172,000 for a potential profit of $100,000. They sent it to us. We pulled the title. We pulled the foreclosure records, and lo and behold, which is very common out there, and especially those of you doing tax deeds in Florida, you're going to see a lot of times if people aren't paying their taxes, they're probably not paying their mortgage either. So you're going to see a lot of times a mortgage foreclosure paralleling a tax foreclosure. And sure enough, when we pulled the title on this, we saw Wells Fargo in the middle of a foreclosure. And in Florida, it's a judicial foreclosure, so there's an attorney involved, a lawsuit. So we see the attorney in there. And so now we saw the noticing. We see that Wells Fargo was notified and even their foreclosing attorney. So a lot of you would go, well, Dave, why? You know, this should be good to go. This should qualify for title insurance. Well, it's not just about the noticing. It's about predicting behavior. What's the risk of challenge? So if I asked any of you out there, you know, what's the risk of challenge here? Even though everybody got notified, why would Wells Fargo why are they still in a mortgage foreclosure if they got wiped out by the tax sale? Well, obviously, the left hand and the right hand with Wells Fargo and Bank of America, you know, they own pretty much at least 60%, and then Fannie and Freddie own the next 40%. They're so huge that when they get the notice, it takes a long time to get run up the flagpole. But predicting behavior, again, we've been doing this for 13 years. We've done over 15,000 of these. And then in my mortgage foreclosure days, what do you think is going to eventually happen? Do you think that if Wells Fargo is going to eventually, when they try to foreclose and find out there's your tax deeds of record, when they update the title, and all of a sudden Wells Fargo is going to go back to their attorney and say, did you know about this? And he's going to say, yeah, actually we did. We signed for the notice, and we should have advised you. Well, his malpractice is on the hook, and Wells Fargo is going to look to him to make it right. And guess what attorneys are going to do to make it right? Because they don't want their malpractice to be involved, so they're going to file a frivolous lawsuit to force you to settle with them. So if you could predict that behavior, at least we can. What's something that the title company could do, but they just don't have time to do what we do because this is our niche? Well, pick up the phone and call the attorney. Hey, Mr. Foreclosing Attorney, Dave Schumacher, Tax Title Services. Just want to let you know, looks like you're in the middle of a mortgage foreclosure, but did you know your property was wiped out by a tax sale? And the first thing they always say is, oh yeah, Dave, we weren't notified. Really? Did you pull the foreclosure file and check that for yourself? Oh, you didn't. Oh, okay. Well, check your email and your fax, because there's your signature on the notice, both the Wells Fargo and you. And I know the leverage in the case law in Florida holds up really well. I know our cards are really good. So they'll go, well, Dave, will your client cooperate with us? I'm like, sure. So I call the client. I say, look, Wells Fargo is interested in buying the property back from you. You know, what would you like to do? Well, Dave, we got 100,000 profit. You know, we're good guys, so why don't we do this? We'll take our principal back of 71,000, plus we'll take 50,000 on top of it, and we'll give them a $50,000 discount. I'm like, great. Call the foreclosing attorney back and go, look, my client is cooperating with you. They're dropping 50 grand off a full price offer that they already have under contract. So for $126,000, this property can go right back to Wells Fargo. 2 days later, Wells Fargo overnighted us a check payable to you, our client, for that. Client paid us about $1,000 to do that. And that happened in 2 weeks of that getting to us. Now, if you sued them in court, you may have ended up in the same result, but only a year later, and probably 10 grand out of attorney's fees just to get the same result that we got you. Even though we didn't certify it, the worst case is we're going to put you in a buyback rate workout normally. Nothing black and white with tax deeds, but that is usually what happens when we can't certify, is we flush out the adversarial party who would sue you or challenge you or take your title away from you, or at least cause a problem for you, like clouding your title by filing a frivolous lawsuit. So now you just got your money back plus 50 grand in 2 weeks, and you barely own the property for 2 weeks. Now you can go to the sale next week down in Florida and purchase another one. Okay, so here's another. What about it in the old days? Before we were around, you had to quiet the title. Imagine quieting the title. The title company tells you, go quiet the title, and you go and you spend 8 months and $8,000 doing the quiet title, and then you go back to close, and the title company says, well, we still don't feel comfortable, sorry. Imagine that. Well, this is what happened here. This is Elm Ridge Drive in Evansville, Indiana. Client of ours did what Chicago Title had told him to do, had quieted the title. It took 8 months to do so. Chicago said, sorry, we're still not comfortable, and the client contacted the National Tax Lien Association, which we're a member of. It's a good resource for anybody who's on the institutional side or even your own side. You might want to visit that website. I believe it's www.ntla.org. If not, just Google National Tax Lien Association. We're a member of that. So they contacted that membership who referred them to us. And client called me and said, Dave, I've got this quiet title. And I said, wait a second, you have a quiet title? And they still wouldn't close? And they're like, yes. I said, well, we do things without quiet titles. Well, great, Dave, can we send this to you? Sure. They sent it to me. I signed off on this in 1 day. Okay? Client sold it, made $18,000 profit. They paid us probably about $1,600 on that file. They would have made $26,000, but they spent 8 months and $8,000 on a quiet title. So that's that. Here's another one. Let's talk about. Let's say you actually here's another Florida one where instead of Wells Fargo, we got Bank of America. Imagine Bank of America actually forecloses on the property and actually rehabs the property and then doesn't pay the taxes and lets it go to tax sale and you buy it. Well, here's 7506 Aldott Lane in Orlando, Florida. Bank of America foreclosed on their $92,000 loan. They obtained a deed, but not pay the outstanding taxes. And then they rehab the property. And they put a for sale sign on the lawn, and then the client sends it to us. We order the tax foreclosure records. We see that Bank of America was notified. We see that their attorney was notified, and so although the mortgage foreclosure case is closed, how do I get? Those of you who have tried to get a hold of Bank of America or tried to call Wells Fargo and try to get through on their customer service lines, you can imagine that's not practical. So thinking ahead with me, what was the way that I could get a hold of Bank of America? Okay, what other way could I have gone through? Well, remember that for sale sign? Well, I called the client. I said, look, client, hey, have you guys put a for sale sign on the property yet? And they're like, no, Dave, that's not our sign. So I go, I must be Bank of America's sign. So who can I get through to who's motivated to get a hold of Bank of America? The realtor, right? So there was a phone number on our inspection because we send out an inspector to every property to tell us, take a picture of the property, tell us if it's occupied or not, which helps us assess the risk of challenge, even without seeing the noticing. So we saw the for sale sign, so we called the number, got through the realtor, and the realtor was all, oh, do you want to buy the property? And we said, no, in fact, Bank of America lost the property to a tax foreclosure. To our client, please have Bank of America remove their for sale sign. Well, you can tell that right away scared the living daylights out of the realtor. Within 30 minutes, Bank of America's attorney was calling me and saying, hey, what's going on here? We weren't notified. And I said, well, check your email, check your fax. Here's your signatures. You were notified. And they're like, well, we don't think there's enough money in it for us to buy this back from you guys. So I said, well, because we're good guys, Bank of America, Florida is a surplus fund state. Anything over and above the delinquent property taxes is called surplus funds, because in Florida you bid up the property. Starts the opening bid as the back taxes, and then you bid it up. So you bid it up to 50 grand. If taxes were 10, the difference is 40. That's called surplus funds, and that's held by the tax collector for 2 years for the property owner and or the senior mortgage loan holder, whether Bank of America or Wells Fargo, Chase, for them to claim, because that's their money. The tax collector is only entitled to the back taxes, not the surplus funds. So I told, hey, Bank of America, there's 40 grand with your name on it over there at the tax collector's office. Go claim that. Once Bank of America went and claimed that, even though they got notified, I still feel they might be a risk. But once they claimed the money, they validate the sale in their eyes. And thus it makes me feel comfortable, allows us to issue a certificate, which we did in this case. Within 45 days of them sending the file to us, they had sold it for $84,000, made 45 grand. Okay, so this is kind of what happens when things when we can't certify or there's risks. That and this again would have been a claim, would have been you would have duked out in court. Again, faster and cheaper alternative, problem solving, common sense, hands-on approach. The other side of it is 80% of the time we're going to go through this process. Everything looks good. We feel comfortable, and normally within 60 days, you're selling you're selling it, and you have title insurance in place. Okay, so I think most of that covers about it. We are a nationwide company, although our website states about 21 states. If a state is on there that is not showing of yours, that just means no one's finished business for that state. Doesn't mean we can't do it. It just means that we have not had business to warrant us to go to do it. But we can help you. But again, please visit the website, taxtitleservices.com. And I think that's it. Joanne, if you want to open up some questions for me, feel free to answer them.
Okay, great. Yeah, we do have quite a bit of questions. And I want to apologize to everybody. They were typing in there when I asked if they could hear. They were typing in there, yes, we could hear you. Sounds good. And because that question box, you guys know, is like really, really small, well, somebody had a question in there that took up a lot of space, and I couldn't see all that other stuff in there until I expanded the question box quite, and I had already expanded it, but I just didn't expand it big enough. So I apologize for that, everybody. Thank you for being patient with me. I know it's going to pay off because you're getting some really good information, and you're going to get your questions answered tonight. So now Samuel has a question. And he said, and he's a current client of yours, he said, I have used tax title services on 3 to 4 occasions and find their services to be excellent. His question is, in Arizona, a tax lien ultimately needs to go through the judicial foreclosure process to receive a judgment deed to the property. Does tax title services have any alternatives?
Well, by the way, thanks, Sam. Appreciate the kudos from you. Good question. Arizona is, because there's states where a judicial foreclosure, in the past, judicial foreclosures normally acted like a quiet title, so you technically didn't really need us. Normally the title companies would feel comfortable to insure off a judicial process, because that's a court thing. It's like a quiet title in itself. But due to all the mortgage foreclosure problems, the robo-signing and all that, that's happened, it scared it scared the underwriters, and so now they don't even really trust judicial foreclosures. But for back in the early days when I first started this in 2000 and Tax Title Services was born, Arizona was a really big state for us because it was administrative. It wasn't a judicial foreclosure. So clients really needed us. But then it went judicial foreclosure and they didn't really need us. But now all of a sudden they are needing us again. And the answer to your question is a lot of times when you do the judicial foreclosure, when you send out, the former owners have to be personally served, meaning a process server, a legal process server has to go down, track to the owner and serve them. You've been served. You've probably all seen that in Law and Order or some kind of TV show with CSI. You've been served, and they throw this piece of paper at you, and that means now you are been served. Well, that's called that's process serving. Okay, the problem in Arizona, which a lot of our clients run into, is the people are dodging the process server. You can't get you can't get them served. So eventually, after a while, you've exhausted all your means to get them served. You then go back to the court and you ask the judge, Your Honor, we can't get service on this person. We need to apply for substituted service, meaning we need to publish in the paper. The judge authorizes that. The problem with that is that the title company knows that when a judicial tax deed is issued like that in Arizona through substituted service, that it comes with a 1 year's appeals period, meaning the former owner still has, or that non-process served person still has 1 year to come forward and attack the ruling and the deed. So that makes the title company, again, feel nervous. We don't like that. So, Samuel, we're going to make you wait 1 year and then come back to us and we'll feel comfortable. Well, again, here you have this great property. Maybe you've rehabbed it. Now you have to wait a year. So the answer to your question is our service can be applied in that instance to eliminate the year. So you can apply with us immediately upon you getting the tax deed if you have substituted service or you're running into a problem, even in your judicial foreclosure state. You can come to us to have us issue the certification and eliminate that 1 year. So hopefully that answers your question, and that'll apply in any other state where a judicial foreclosure is in place.
Okay, let's see. See whatever other questions we have here. Pia asks, what kind of paperwork do you need? Or I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Okay, but we have a question on what kind of paperwork do
paperwork meaning to place an order with us, we would just need minimally the order form from our website. You can actually place the order online, you can pay online, you can track online, but minimally what we're going to need is the order form from the website, filled out and printed out, and or emailed or faxed in, along with a copy of your tax deed. In some states, a lot of times you'll get a receipt of sale and you have to wait for the tax deed. You can still place the order with us with the receipt of sale, and then once the tax deed comes in, you would then send that to us to finalize the certification process. So you can open up, so we would need the order form, the tax deed, or the receipt of sale if you don't have your deed yet, and then we need $750 to get started. In certain states, we do offer, like in Georgia and in Montana, Louisiana, Missouri, where the tax deed holder or tax certificate holder has to do their own noticing to get the tax deed. You have to do it, not the tax collector. The law says that you have to do it. We do offer that service, by the way. That's an additional service on top of the certification, title insurance qualification service. And again, that's the ideal process for us, is if the title company could do the noticing for the tax collector or you, we're going to overkill that noticing and make sure it's done right and done like really overkilled. So nobody's going to come back and say, well, you should have done this, this, and that to get me noticed. Well, we do all that and a lot more. And thus, if we do the noticing, we're going to feel comfortable with our own work. That's pretty much guaranteeing the certification subject to possession because we did the work. So again, separate service. So by the way, so if in a state like Georgia or Montana or Indiana where you did your noticing, to place an order with us, we're going to need to get a copy of your noticing. In other states, we don't need that because we order that from the tax collector. But if you did the noticing or your attorney did the noticing or whatnot, we would need, with the order, in addition to the order form, the tax deed, the receipt of sale, we would need a copy of your noticing, a complete copy. Give us everything you got. The copy of the notices, the certified mail, the first class mail, the publication in the paper, all that stuff. If you have a, we do tell you, most clients are like, Dave, you know, should I market the property? Should I be taking possession right away? I'm not an attorney and I can't give legal advice, but based on my experience, I don't really go even as an investor myself. I don't want to go knock on somebody's door that I don't know my leverage with them. So we recommend that before you take possession, if the property is occupied, do not go take possession yet till we've done our job for you. So then you know that these people got notified. They know you're coming. You don't want to go knocking on somebody's door and they don't know you're coming. You know, it can be a bad experience for you. It can cause an adversarial thing where they may tear up the property. You know, you want to just know what your cards are. So we recommend, now if the property is abandoned and unoccupied and the door is wide open and broken windows, yeah, you're going to want to go secure the property to keep people from breaking into it. I've learned my own lesson the hard way. I had a couple of Indiana properties. I picked up this portfolio before I even had the chance to put hazard insurance on it and secure the property. Some meth people, drug people got in it and burned the house down. So I've learned it the hard way. So what you want to do is on an abandoned property, yeah, you want to secure it. You want to board it up, and more than likely the code departments are on you anyway. So you're going to want to do that. So what we need: order form, tax deed, tax liens, or the receipt of sale. If you did the noticing to get your tax deed, we need that. And if you have a purchase agreement, although we don't recommend you sell until we're done because we don't want to, if you had a carve out or a buyback or a workout, you're going to have a performance issue with your buyer, right? So if you are selling it, you're going to want to put in your contracts, in your addendums, that it's subject to the title clearing and that you're paying for the title insurance, so you get to choose the title company. That's really important in states like South Carolina, Florida, where the buyer has the right to choose the title company. If you pay for the title insurance for them, you get to control the transaction, and buyer attorneys won't kill your deal because they won't be able to insure or do the closing because their title company doesn't like to insure tax deeds. So you want to control the transaction and have it in your purchase agreements that you are paying for the title insurance and that here's the title and that you're going to choose the title company.
Okay, great. That's good to know. Control the title company that closes the sale. You pay for the title insurance so that you can control who does it, so that you can be sure they're going to do it.
Yeah, it's going to be through an agent of ours that we work with that's very experienced, knows tax deeds, knows us, and knows how to handhold your buyers.
Okay, great. All right. I have a question here from Jonathan. How does your product compare to the product Meridian Title offers? I'm not familiar with them at all, Dave.
That is a really good question because Meridian, I used to send, okay, this is great. This is all going to be on record too. And if Brenda, you're listening, sorry. But Brenda and Meridian, those guys all know us because they were a title agent that we sent business to for years in Indiana. Okay? And what happened is they ended up creating their, basically, I'm going to say they stole what we do. They became a competitor of ours. After seeing what we do, they created their own. And if you look at their website or go to their website, you're going to see they use the exact certification language. They use the exact pricing. They basically stole what we did. I worked with them for 4 or 5 years. They were a title agent that in Indiana that we would send a certification to, and because we get to pick the title agents. So I would send business to them. Well, they wanted to get into my business, and they did, and I felt was very unethical and unprofessional and whatnot. I still feel that way, but business is business, and so you can work with somebody like that, or you can work with us. But comparably, Meridian is Indiana-based only. We're a national company. We've been at it for 13 years. We've done over 15,000 of these. Meridian's been in business doing this maybe 2 years. And it works under a small underwriter and whatnot. Again, sorry, Brenda, Meridian, don't like to really talk like that, but I'm still not happy with what happened. But it is what it is. So if that answers your questions with Meridian, our product has been in place. We're backed by the biggest title underwriters in America, and we have the most experience. And Meridian is not going beyond the call of duty. I can tell you to track people down, knock on their doors, flush out adversarial parties, mediate on your behalf. They're not really doing that. So hopefully that answers your question.
I was going to say, Dave, I think you guys do stuff that they don't do. I'm not familiar with them at all, but just knowing what you guys do, I know you guys go above and beyond. Not only that, but I think you have a specialty where you can do it quicker than anybody else, and you have a special program that you offer to get a real fast turnaround time. Can you talk about that?
Well, we do have priority service, but it's not guaranteed because every tax deed has its own particulars. A lot of clients are like, Dave, see, we process oldest to newest, and we do about 200 of these or more a month. And so what clients can do, and what we do offer is Joanne's clients, you guys out there, is you do get priority service for free. That's a $350 value. Basically, that puts you ahead of 200 other files to be reviewed to start the process. So a lot of times, even though it's not guaranteed, and our average turnaround time is about 60 days. And again, one thing about us, and maybe comparable to Meridian, is that we don't oversell what we do. The process works, and the fact that we've had low claims is because we do go beyond the call of duty to carve out, providing a quality thing here, protecting everybody, and really flapping the beehive, flushing these people out, and dealing with them. So we don't want to oversell what we do. So service does take about 60 days, 30 days to gather and review everything, 30 days to flush out adversarial parties and deal with them. But we do offer rush service, which can a lot of times speed up the process, because now if we had the title search, if some clients will say, Dave, I've got a title search from First American, I've got the tax foreclosure file. Here's $1,000, here's $1,100 instead of $750 for the rush service. And a lot of times, like when that one example with the client had a quiet title, well, I got that done in a day. Now I can't say that's normal. We do again, we have a lot of volume. We're in expanding mode and all that, so we will say 60 days, but you do get free priority service if you're coming through. If you're with Joanne, we will put you ahead of 200 other files.
Okay, great. That's what I like to hear, guys. So, just tell them, the tax lien lady sent you, and you get that service for free. That is, what, a $350 service to go ahead of everybody else?
We would just need them to write on the order form, tax lien lady student or whatever. That
Okay,
tells us
great.
that this is a Joanne file.
Great. Yeah. See, now I want to tell you guys that before I knew about tax title services, I did a quiet title on a deed that I bought here in Pennsylvania, and it took me almost a year. So the turnaround time they're talking about is pretty darn good. Uh, all right, we have a couple more questions. We have about 5 more minutes, so I'm going to try to get through these fast because I do want to try to have Dave answer them for you. All right, we have another question. If the tax lien is a senior lien, why should I discount? And I think what they mean, Dave, is why do they have to discount the property if they have the senior lien? I think you did mention about that before, but
well, yeah, I think there's some confusion on that. What I was talking about is discounting, meaning I was talking about if I'm an investor and you're selling me your tax deed property, and I'm going to ask you, did you clear the title? Because I know there's a title problem. So what I was talking about is if you don't have good title, if you haven't gone through like our service or quieted the title, you basically, and you want to sell your property to me or to somebody else, you're basically, they're going to inherit your title problem unless you fix it. So unless you fixed your title, either through us or through a quiet title, if that's not in place, I as your buyer now have to take on that problem. And by taking on that problem, I'm going to offer you I'm going to be negotiating. Let's say the property is worth $100,000 with everything clean, title. Well, all of a sudden now you're telling me you don't have good title. Well, now all of a sudden, I'm going to give you 80 grand instead of 100 because I have a problem. It's going to cost me time and money and all that. So I think that's what I was talking about, is the tax lien is a superior lien. It does wipe out everybody except code liens. You will take the property, municipality liens, even old municipal county mortgages. You will take the property subject to any kind of municipality lien, which is usually code liens, water sewer assessments. Those types of things are normally not wiped out by a tax deed. But the mortgages will, upon us doing our job and confirming notice and all that. The IRS is even wiped out after they have an extra 120 days to redeem you or buy the property back from you. But after the 120 days is up, the IRS lien is out upon them. Obviously, we confirm that they got notified. You are a senior lien holder, but I'm not sure if that, in context of a discount, the discount I was talking about is just we're negotiating. A buyer is going to negotiate with you if you don't have your title ready to go, either through us or through Quiet Title.
Yeah, basically the title is uninsurable. That's why
Correct.
you discount.
And that's
Right.
and that's why you're not going to get full market value for it.
Okay, we have a couple more questions. I know we're at the top of the hour here, but in 5 more minutes we can answer the rest of these questions here. So just hang with us. If you have to leave, thank you for joining us tonight. And if you need their services, go to taxtitleservices.com. And when you submit your paperwork, just let them know that you found out about them from me, and you can and you get that service where you could get it expedited without having to pay extra. All right, Jay asks, if I just want only a simple title search on a tax sale property, where will you do this now? I know you can do that, Dave, but I know that's not what you do. So can you recommend a source or resource for reasonable title searches?
Yeah, we only order title searches for an order that we've received to do our job. We're not a title insurance agent. Again, we're the qualifying agent. We qualify the property, and then we send it to our title agents who would issue the title insurance to you. So, recommendations, if you're looking for, it depends on what you're looking for. Your local title company, your local title office can do that. There is, I think foreclosures.com has a link to some title search vendors that have online capabilities and at a cheaper price if that's what you're looking for. If you want a full insurable product, we actually even use from time to time a company called safeguardproperties.com. That's actually the same vendor we use who does all our inspections nationwide on improved properties to help us do our due diligence in underwriting these things for you guys. So you might want to try Safe. You can order title searches through them. Now they cost a little bit more, but it's very thorough. I like the way they put it together. Eric Solowitz is their attorney who does all that. Great guy. He lives and breathes title. You really do get your money's worth. You're looking at probably $400 on an average for a full insurable 30 to 40-year search. I'm not sure if they do a limited search, if that's what you're looking for, like say an E&O search or a limited title search. That would be more of the foreclosures.com type thing. Otherwise, check with your local title company, title agent, to see if they can assist you.
Okay, Steve asks, I just purchased a Texas tax deed for a duplex. Clearly, the owner does not occupy in the duplex, so it should not be claimed as a homestead. How soon can I start the process with your company for title insurance?
That's a great question because Texas is a quasi-deed subject to right of redemption, but you have the right to possess the property right away. The thing about Texas is what you're going to want to do is while you're waiting out the 6-month redemption period for a non-homesteaded property, we want you to send the order to us the day you purchase it at the auction. And the reason being is because you have to, with the 6 months has to toll, we can't eliminate that. That's just the law. We get to re-notify everybody during those 6 months to fix any of the noticing issues. Again, a state like Montana and Louisiana and Georgia, where we get to do the noticing for you, we get to fix all the problems. Well, same thing here. While you're waiting out the 6 months, you have to wait it out. you might as well send it to us so that we can re-notify everybody and make sure that they do get notified. And normally they don't redeem because obviously Texas, as you know, is a 25% penalty state. Day one, they owe you 25% of your money. So you don't really see a lot of redemptions in Texas. So to answer your question, you're going to get a receipt of sale, and your deed comes later from the court, from the tax collector or the school districts who issue the deeds through the court action that you bid it on. You can place the order with us. We would need the order form and your receipt of sale, and then the prepaid funds. We do require $1,450 in a state like Texas where you want us to do the noticing, which is a separate service. But send it to us right away so that we can redo that noticing for you. So once the 6 months expires, you have possession of the property, which obviously in this case it sounds like it's abandoned. You put hazard insurance on it, maybe secure it if it's conspicuously open to keep people out. And then once the 6 months expires, we've already got the title ready to go and you're off and running. Another thing about Texas is title insurance is written through closings only, meaning we can't get you a title policy insuring you as the owner, but we do have a vendor that issues what's called gap assurance policy, which does the same thing. We can get you gap assurance, protecting you while you sell. Some clients, like recently we had a client who just rehabbed and wants to, in Texas, and wants to just rent their property. They don't want to sell it. So in that instance, we got them a gap assurance policy, which protects them just like title insurance until they want to go refinance or resell, and then that goes through the title company and the title insurance is issued then.
Okay, great. That brings us to another question because you mentioned your noticing service. How much does your noticing service cost?
We charge $650 plus costs. Our fee is $650, and then the cost would be the title search, which runs $250 to $400 depending on the state on an average. Then you have your certified mail, your first class mail. In certain states like Georgia, you have to do the sheriff's service. That's $50 a party. Average is about $100, $150 for the sheriff. You're talking about publishing the notice in the paper as statutorily required. That usually runs $200 to $400. Basically, we're passing on the hard cost to you. So usually like in Georgia, which is the most noticing that we do for clients, you're looking at probably around $1,400, $1,450 total for, which again, $650 is to us and the rest is just hard costs. And now again, that's a separate service because if you get redeemed, you don't own the property unless you don't need certification. So the first phase is the noticing, $650 plus costs. Will run in around an average of $1,200 to $1,400 total. And then upon non-redemption, then the certification kicks in, and that's another $750 to $1,500, depending on the value of the property, up to $150,000 in value. Check our pricing schedule for how much we charge for these services.
All right. Thank you so much, Dave. That was great. I think we've gotten through all the questions. I just want to say hi, Felipe. He joined us on the call. I had to mute him out, though, because he had some white noise in the background. So just wanted to say hello to him.
No, hey, Felipe works for us. He's a great employee. He does all our direct mail to all of you people out there. If you get something in the mail that's coming from Felipe, and Felipe's work has. I always knew if I get somebody to full time just to do direct mail to my clients, it'd probably be the most efficient way to generate business. And we've doubled our business in the last year, and a lot of that's due to Felipe. So hey, Felipe, appreciate it. Thanks for setting this up. He's actually been at some of your events, Joanne, and set up
Yes.
the booth and all that. So
Yeah.
Thanks, Felipe.
Yeah, he has. He's been at two of my conferences, and maybe even three.
Well, he went to one, an REI one, and I think two other ones for you.
Yes, yeah, he went to three. I had one here in Pennsylvania in 2012. We had one in Baltimore in May, and we just had one. And we have another one coming up in our next conference will be in November 4th, in Anaheim. So, and
hey, that's our backyard. Yay.
Oh, so you're going to be there?
Well, yeah, well, of course. Anaheim, that's Orange County. That's maybe 20 miles from here inland.
Oh, all right,
but
great.
Yeah, we'll definitely be. That's an easy one for me. I'll probably show up for that one and set up the booth and be there for you.
Great, great, great. Looking forward to it. All right. Well, thank you so much. Thanks everybody for your great questions that we've had tonight, and thanks for being on here tonight with us. And I hope to see you at the conference. I know not everybody can make it, but we'll see you on another webinar. So good night, everybody.